Okay, great. We're off. Good morning, James Cluskey.
Debbie, good morning and thanks for having me.
Not at all, an absolute pleasure. I have to say you're such a pleasure to chat to, and to really you're such a lovely, easy guy to chat to. What I'd like to do is we met each other, just to fill people in. First of all, we met each other at a posh, somebody that we both know, has these lovely posh dinners on the south side, and he brings people together to kind of network. As you said in your book, it can be construed as a kind of a sleazy word, but in this case it definitely wasn't. So you're all sitting around a table and it's absolutely lovely, and everybody's kind of got a different role, and you were sitting beside me, and I wouldn't say there's too many north siders get to that table, to be perfectly honest.
That's
which is all very south side. But anyway, so James, so you have a great story to tell. I mean, really and truly have a fab story to tell, and so I'm going to let you tell it. So you started off swords. Daddy's a farmer.
Yeah, Dad's a farmer. Yeah, Dad's a farmer. My mom's a nurse. Both kind of retired now, and so my mom actually on the kind of south side, north side thing. My mom is from Terranure and my dad's from Swords, so I always wonder how my dad tempted my mom over to the north side. I think in those days it was like going to onto a farm. It was like going to another planet. So, so my mom was into tennis a little bit. I have an older brother, older sister. They played a little bit of tennis, and then I started what's called the Parks Tennis Program, which I'm sure some of the people watching will have heard of. It's a great program which basically makes tennis accessible to kids around the country. So I started the Swords Tennis Club. I was really shy as a kid. Like, you know, I don't think you wouldn't realize it now, but yeah, I was very shy as a kid. But I loved tennis. I think I cried a few times. I was dragged down, but I loved it, got really into it. And then I suppose things just went from there in terms of, you know, the Parks tennis finished, and then I joined the tennis club and joined the squad there, and then then Westwood Clontarf opened when I was 14, which is they had 7 indoor courts, and that was made a big difference. A coach, a guy Larry Jervich, a Canadian coach, came to Ireland. He had a big influence on my life. I always think, like, it's, as I said in the book, it's, you know, who you surround yourself with, and it's important to be around good people. And he had a major influence. He kind of, like, he really had us, you know, reading books from entrepreneurs and other sports people and thinking outside the box, and really kind of helping us believe in ourselves as well.
Was Wimbledon the kind of goal at this point? Is that the dream? Is that the ultimate?
Yeah, that's the, you know, there was like a dream was always to play Davis Cup for Ireland. That was when I think I was 8 years old. I went and watched my first Davis Cup match. Wimbledon was always a dream. And yeah, like I suppose those two, you know, I always I had the pic, you know, as most kids do, pictures on their wall of sports people. I had obviously a lot of tennis players, and I was just obsessed with the sport, like, and I loved it. And I think I came from a good family in that I know I came from a good family in that my dad, you know, in sport, there's a lot of pushy parents around.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids who are under a lot of pressure to perform and so on, whereas I never had that. You know, my dad has no interest in tennis. He still doesn't have any interest in tennis.
Yeah.
And my mom likes tennis, but she's very supportive and positive, and not, you know, she just wants me to be happy, basically, and she'll support me in whatever I want to do.
It's definitely an elite sport, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I mean, in Ireland, it's a good question, and in Ireland, it would be like, it would be. Now, hopefully, that's changing. I mean, in other countries, it's not. So, like, I would have played a lot in France. It's not in France. Like, everyone plays tennis. It's such a, you know, but in Ireland and the UK, it's an elite sport, and, like, you know, you have to have. You know, my mom actually says, I remember she was saying, like, you know, you kind of get hooked in with the parks, and it's really cheap. It's only, you know, well, I shouldn't say it's really cheap, but, like, it's very affordable for people. And then she's like, you get good and you get hooked in, and then you have to do private lessons, and
that's expensive.
It's an expensive sport.
And we've all kind of seen kids through my life. I remember different people going to France and those kind of places and trying to get into these training camps or whatever, and they cost fortune. They were trying to get sponsors and all that. So I suppose you do have to do that, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go and train away. Like I stayed in Ireland. I was in Westwood, as I said. A lot of people do move to America, to Bollettieri's and to all these different places, and it works out for some people. It doesn't work out for others. But yeah, the bottom line is it is an expensive sport, I think. And in terms of tennis in Ireland, the UK have a lot of money because of Wimbledon. So the LTA, the Lawn Tennis Association, they have big budgets because of Wimbledon, whereas Tennis Ireland don't really. So it's kind of players are left to their own devices, really. So it's challenging, but it's a great sport.
Following your leaving cert, then you decided you got a scholarship to go to the States. That was the step.
Yeah, that was the step. That was always where I wanted to go. Like that was kind of the plan, I guess. So I went to Louisiana to college, which was an amazing experience. I mean, I actually arrived 3 days before Hurricane Katrina, so that was, I mean, that was terrible. And so it was really tough. But I had an amazing college experience. Like I think it was very good for me, even personally, like as an individual, just to kind of grow up and be away from home, and you're on a team and you're meeting people from different backgrounds and different cultures and so on. But I'd be very positive about my experience in Louisiana, and obviously you get to train with great facilities, you get to train in really good weather, and so I was very happy there. Like,
just as a matter of interest, something we didn't touch off before. Were you aware of racism there at the time? Was it obvious at the time?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an undertone of racism. Like, I mean, Louisiana, like I remember, well, two things. I remember in 2009, so I was there 2005, 2009. And I think the people are inherently good as well, but there is definitely a lingering, there's racism there. I mean, there's no denying it. But I remember, so LSU, Louisiana, they would play college football, and 100,000 people go to the football game, and they would play against Mississippi, Alabama, all these teams every year, and it's huge deal over there. It's like our GAA essentially, like. And I remember Louisiana, where LSU were playing against Ole Miss, so Mississippi, in 2009, and Mississippi, the university decided that the band at the game would no longer play this certain song. And the song, they decided not to play it anymore because it was kind of had roots in the Civil War and racism and all that stuff. So that was well, I thought that was fine. And the Ku Klux Klan marched on the campus in 2009 as a protest, So like, and I remember watching it and thinking, I didn't know they still existed, And now, to be fair, when people were protesting against this song, like the Mississippi college people were kind of saying, they were very against them. Like, so the vast majority of people were like, "This is ridiculous," But there is definitely.
Were they wearing those pointy hats?
They weren't wearing like the white kind of thing that we would think of, but they were wearing. Their faces were covered anyway. I remember there was people shouting, saying, "Take off your hoods, you cowards!" And
yes, yeah. Of course, the movie Mississippi was all about that. I mean, that famous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like, yes, there's racism in the South, but I mean, I do think things are getting better. I would hope. Well, I don't know, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's terrible, like, but
desperate at the moment. So just get me. So at this point in time, when then, of course, right through your book, you talk about Richard Branson because you then became Richard Branson's tennis coach. So at what point you were invited to Necker Island to a tennis tournament? Is that right?
Yeah. So how that came about actually was, and I think you'll appreciate this because I know you're someone who's get up and go and pick up the phone and ask people and stuff. So I played professionally from 2010 to end of 2015, and I played an ATP event. So one of the big events I got into, I was at the players' party, or I was speaking to a friend of mine, and basically he told me about this event. Richard Branson has a tennis event on his island, where. As you do, yeah. Some of the some of the best tennis players in the world come to the event. So Novak Djokovic, Nadal, Caroline Wozniacki, these kind of players, and business people come as well. So founders of tech companies, entrepreneurs, and so on. So I thought, wow, this is unbelievable, you know. And I basically found out who the guy was who organizes the event, and I sent him a message on Facebook, and I just said, is there any way we could arrange a call? And he said, yeah. And I said, my ranking is 145. So I'm obviously not Novak Djokovic or Rafael Nadal.
No, but still, it's still very good. You're not nobody.
No, it was like, it's good, but you know, those guys are, you know, different planet. Like, so I remember speaking to him, to Trevor, and saying, look, I'll stand on the court all day, so you'll never be short. So when the founder of a company comes to play tennis and the such and such pro is off in the, you know, having a drink or off in the sea, that I was like, you'll never be short a player. I'll be standing there. And I remember thinking, all he can say is say no. Like,
yeah.
Came back and said, oh, okay, yeah, we'll pay your expenses to come over. And so I went in 2015, and then I remember like getting off the boat to walk onto this island thinking, what am I doing here? And I shouldn't be here. And, you know, I did feel a bit kind of,
oh my God,
a bit uneasy, like, but then, you know, once I got there, I kind of just had this philosophy, just throw yourself in, and, you know, you're
fair play to you.
I went in, and I met Richard then at the bar, and kind of was chatting to, but only just generally kind of talking about Ireland and different, nothing kind of, just a casual conversation. And then over the week you're obviously hanging out there, and then I met this guy Kenny who runs the island, and a tennis coach who's over there, this guy Josh. And about a month later, between the jigs and the reels, I got an email saying, would I come back out and coach him tennis? And
well, you must have, that's a lottery win.
yeah, like it is a lottery win, and I 100% agree. But I also think, like, you need to put, you know, I did that. I think that one phone call that I made at the very start, you know, in 2015, what that's led to in terms of the people I've met and the relationships formed through it.
I mean, James, he could have asked Federer to do that job, and he would have gone.
Yeah.
Like, realistically, he could have. So, I mean, fair play to you, because he obviously felt he could connect with you. He, you know, maybe he obviously didn't feel you were going to intimidate his tennis either. You know what I mean? Because you're a nice guy, you're not a threatening type. You know, but tell me this now. I was fascinated in the book. First of all, I got a bit pissed off in the book when you said that he asked about the tea. I was saying, the cheek of him asking anybody to make his tea. Tell me that story.
Well, actually, now, to be fair, he didn't ask me to make the tea. So what happened there was, he's amazing. Like, so I've gone, you know, several times, and I would go for a month at a time, and you'd play tennis with him twice a day, and you'd see, you know, you've got to know him actually quite well through it. Like,
yeah.
And I remember someone said to me, look, are you making him a cup of tea when he comes in the morning, and, you know, and you have a cup of tea with him or whatever. And I don't really drink tea at all. Like, and I remember being like, I kind of get nervous about the stupid things, you know. And I remember thinking, like, Jesus, like, I'm going to make him this cup of tea, and he'll be like, this is terrible, you know. And I remember he came in. I was like, Richard, you know, I think you should make your own tea, because I'm not a big tea drinker. And, you know, he kind of laughs a bit. Like, he loves the kind of crack, and he loves kind of conversation and stuff. So,
so, James, you were genuinely impressed with him, because I swing both ways on him at times. I go on him and I go off him. I mean, he's a brilliant entrepreneur, obviously. But in your book, your description of his positivity and his discipline, hard work, is extraordinary.
Yeah, no, he is. I mean, he is. I think I used the word relentless in the book. I mean, his fitness and his zest for life and his get up and go and his positivity. Like, every time when I meet him, I'd say, how are you? You know, how's your tennis? Oh, better than ever. So, and I have to say, like, you know, obviously it's challenging times for everyone at the moment, but like, and, you know, there was a lot of press in the UK around the airline and stuff, but I remember he sent me an email saying, like, you know, how's your family? Is everyone safe? You know, he's very people orientated, like, and I wouldn't say a bad word about him because he's been very, very kind to me. Like,
I loved the little story you had. Anyway, little stories probably always get us all, but I just loved the tennis racket story, even the Irish guy you were talking about in the book. I thought that was so lovely.
Yeah, and that for me is a good summary of him. Like, in that's so that story was just around how he said to me one day on the court, "Look, I'm not sure what type of what racket should I be using," and I said, "Look, it's not my expertise. I could tell you, but I have a friend that owns a tennis shop, and I'll ask him to send over a couple of rackets." So Will sends over a couple of rackets, and Richard uses one, and it's like, "This is the one." And he says to me on the court, he says, "Make sure he sends the bill. I don't want it for free. Everyone's trying to make a living."
Yeah.
And then the second thing he says is, email me his email. And then when I got it, and then when Richard was leaving, he said again, he reminded me, he's like, email me his email. And then I got a message from Will, and I'll never forget it, because Will sent me a picture of the email. And he actually thought that his mates had, because he told all his friends that he was sending over rackets for Richard Branson. But he thought that his friends had created this fake email address and sent an email saying, "Dear Will, thank you very much for sending over the rackets. Going forward, you'll be my racket consultant. All the best, Richard." So he was like, he thought it was a prank initially, but no, like, and that for me, like, that's very typical of him. Like, I mean, I don't have a cup of tea with him and be like, "This guy is an absolute genius," but it's his people, it's his ability with people that I think is very good, and yeah, his kind of charisma around it. And there was one other one, actually, I remember sitting, man, this probably isn't a great story, but I remember sitting kind of at the side of the court on this wall, and he played 1 or 2 points, and I was like, he kind of looked at me, and then I thought he was about to say something, and it was like he goes, can you move to the left there? And then I moved seats or whatever, and he said, there was coconut in the tree above my head, and he was like, coconuts falling or whatever. And again, it's like his people concern. So but a great experiences there, like.
Fabulous. My God, a dream for somebody like you at that stage in your career. So really it has opened so many doors. So from Necker then, I liked your story when you went to some business meeting. And I suppose it's actually, maybe I'm arrogant and full of myself, I don't know, but I don't ever feel like an imposter. And I laughed when you said you did feel, most people do feel like you went to that business meeting in LA or somewhere and you met Dr. Betty, who obviously was another important person in the following years then for you.
Yeah, she's been very, very kind to me, and she wrote a good book called Values, and she was an immigrant from Colombia, and worked her way up to be president of California Bank. And
journey she made herself as a woman in those years and everything,
Yeah, she talks a lot around that, like, it's, and she's definitely an inspiration of mine, of how she I've done some stuff with her in LA, and she's just brilliant. Like, she has that kind of like your mindset around, she doesn't really, not that like you respect people, but she doesn't kind of,
kowtow to them.
Yeah, bow down to people. Like, and I think I have that to a degree, but I definitely feel the kind of imposter syndrome at times where I'm like, "Ooh, am I good enough to be here?" Like, and I remember being in Los Angeles at an event, and before I met her, and everyone, it was like maybe 10 tables of 10 business people or more, like, and the guy who was presenting it was like, "Oh, we'll just go around and everyone can introduce themselves and their background and stuff." And I actually remember thinking, "Geez, I might slip out to the toilet here before getting to my table." Like, so, but then I suppose we all have this kind of internal dialogue,
Yes.
I think we all go through it. And I'm like, no, like, you kind of have that fight with yourself.
Why would you ever think that? Like, even if you're training as a young kid, as a teenager, getting through all of that, the challenges of tennis, never mind even going to Necker. I don't know why for a second you would think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I know it is ridiculous. Yeah, but
it's nice though. Do you know what, James? Actually, it's quite charming. It makes you very likable. There's a huge likability factor around that, I think, instead of somebody who's full of themselves and thinks they should be there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
that puts me off people when I think that they're just too big for their boots, where you don't have that factor at all. And I loved in your book as well. I did like all your advice on networking, which obviously you did very successfully. And it's
Mm.
handy that Necker opened so many doors. But like even using LinkedIn, for example, you know, like using it as a tool to progress your career, because suddenly you know how to connect with people everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn as a platform has been, you know, it's amazing. Actually, I watched a good talk with Reid Hoffman, one of the co-founders of LinkedIn, talking about, you know, how when they started and how, like, you know, how you get users on it basically. But I've, you know, I've reached out to a lot of people on LinkedIn, and actually, you know, when I was retiring from tennis, the Sports Council, or the Institute of Sports called now, they had a thing in LinkedIn where we went into the office and they taught us how to create a LinkedIn profile, right? So we brought athletes from different sports, and I went along to it, and there was a guy who he used to work there, Alan Temple's his name, and I went over to him after, again, kind of just chatting away, and then he said, look, if you want to come in and you know, work with my team and learn from them.
Brilliant.
I went in, and I used to go in kind of when I was playing. I'd come back and I'd go in maybe one day a week, and I went in a good few times, and I'd sit in on sales calls and go for lunch with the guys in the team, and I gave them a talk then on performance as well. So like, but I absolutely loved it, like, and the company was very kind to me to allow me to do that, like, so I'm very grateful for
That's kind of what they do anyway. I mean, they're all about networking, so I suppose, but that's really good. The other thing too, the transition when tennis players, and I suppose all sports guys must come up against this, your transition then into a business world, I think you did struggle with your own confidence a little bit, I felt, with that, and you just weren't sure if that was the right platform. But I mean,
yeah.
it has worked for you, obviously.
Yeah, like I think sports people, you know, can struggle with the transition, as do you know. There's obviously different, you know, business people who move on to different companies and stuff. But for sports people, you've given your life to a sport, and then it's kind of what do you do next.
Yeah. So business coaching, you liked the idea of business coaching?
Yeah, so in the book, guy Stephen Tedell, who's
I have your book. I read it. I would highly recommend it, I have to say.
Oh,
It's called Advantage. But just to go on to tell me your jump into business coaching. What was the hardest bit of that for you?
My jump into getting coaching, or
going into like to coaching, because to take on a big CEO, like I've done coaching courses and I'm a coach as well. And do you feel if you were to get some very serious CEO looking for advice, would that make you feel nervous about?
No, I've definitely, my comfort level is high now. I'm confident in my ability to help someone. You know, I think there's a difference between coaching and mentoring. You know, mentoring is if a young tennis player came to me and asked for mentorship around their tennis, but coaching is around asking powerful questions and helping the person move forward in what they want to do. So you know, I'm confident in my background in sport, and I think it very much translates into business.
Yeah.
One thing I mentioned, you know, in the book as well, is like around goal setting and, you know, being clear on what the vision is of what you're trying to achieve, and then asking a guy, Kurt Long, who's in the book, who sold a data privacy company, about his view on goal setting, and he said the most important thing is what is the vision. So what are you trying to achieve, and working backwards from that vision. So for me in coaching, essentially, it's trying to help someone achieve their vision, and I feel I can help someone do that. And look, when you first start, I've been doing it a couple of years now. When you first start, obviously there is, you know, you're learning the whole time, and yeah, no, I found it very useful to be coached personally. So I've had a lot of improvements, and I still have a coach now, or someone that I can that's someone that I work with. And so I think it's very good to have someone who's external as well. I believe in, like, you know, when I played tennis, when I was on the Davis Cup team, we had a sports psychologist that worked with us, and I found like it was very beneficial to speak to someone external it's confidential, you know, because I knew if I went to the coach or the manager and I said it, he would have doubts around me, or maybe the team, and so on. So like, it's just good to have a sounding board of someone who's not kind of judging you, like, you know. So
I heard you last week on I think it was RT, and I thought I thought it was a good point you made, to have an accountability partner that as well, so that like if you're getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go for a walk or play tennis or go to the gym, that if you have somebody meeting you there, it's so much easier than just doing it on your own. I thought that's a very good point. It's a very obvious thing, but it's a good point.
It's funny because I actually I played tennis this morning at 6:30, and I played with this girl Jane Fenley. She was on the Fed Cup team for Ireland, and I was telling her this morning. So I cycled the Greenway in Waterford the other day, and I was playing tennis and stuff. So I was actually quite tired, and I woke up this morning. And I was like, there was that split second where I was like, oh, like, you know, what am I doing? Should I cancel? And I'm like, no, you know, like, and I think maybe, I don't know, but maybe if I was just going to do the gym on my own, I might have rolled over in bed. Like,
yeah, so, it is a good thing. So here, a personal question now. How hard is it to have a love life when you're on the tennis circuit as a tennis person?
Very difficult, yeah, very difficult. Like I when I was playing full time, didn't really, you know, I had one or two girlfriends and stuff along the way, but nothing really serious. Like, yeah, it's challenging. Like, because you were traveling 35 weeks a year to everywhere from Russia, Kazakhstan to Asia so it's and you're very focused and driven on the goals and stuff. Now some people manage it, so I'm not saying it's impossible. But I thought it was challenging. Like,
yeah, I would have thought so, because just the amount of travel you were doing just seemed to be off the scale. You were constantly and on your own quite a lot. I got the impression you were on your own a huge amount of the time.
Yeah, I was on my own a lot. Yeah. Now I don't mind being on my own. Like, I mean, I like people and stuff. Yeah, I did travel alone a lot, and I actually, in some ways, I was saying this to my mom a couple of years ago. I went down the country for a break, and I was meeting someone. And I went alone basically, and she was like, "Oh, I don't know how you do it." But I actually said I actually missed being alone a little bit. You know, like I missed that kind of the traveling alone to some degree. But you know, I think look, we need people and we need human interaction as well. Like,
I agree. Just tell me the little story. I know you were saying you were playing yesterday. You were playing tennis, paddle tennis, yeah?
I was playing paddle, yeah.
And the reason we know one another is obviously because I work with teenagers and a lot of challenges in their lives, and you're interested in helping out. So tell me just the little story you told me about the boy yesterday on the tennis ball, because it's very relevant, and your own reaction to it.
Yeah, like, and the backstory with getting involved with you is I did a lot of stuff in Louisiana in terms of schools, and I came back to Ireland and I haven't really done anything, like, and I'd like to get involved. And I think my whole philosophy is surround yourself with the people you want to become, and I want to kind of look if I can inspire a kid to you know, to help them and so on. I'd love to do that, like, and I'd get great pleasure in that. So but yesterday I was so I was playing paddle tennis, Bushy Park. There's the tennis courts, the paddle courts, and in behind there's a skating park, and it's over a fence which you can see into, and sometimes the ball goes over, and generally the people would throw the ball back. So I smashed the shot anyway, and I went over the fence, and I kind of ran to ask the person to give me the ball back. And this kid, he must have been about 16. Well, all the kids were kind of sitting there smoking weed, and there was this kid, he was about 16, and he had the ball in his hand, and he just, I said, "Sorry, can I get the ball?" And he kind of, I don't think he looked at me, but he just threw the ball away down the other end of the skate park. And my initial reaction was, what what are you doing? Like, and he goes, it's effing gone. Like,
yeah.
And I was saying to you, my first reaction is, what an absolute prick, like, you know? And then luckily another kid in the skate park got the ball and threw it back anyway. And I kind of gave your man the stare, the Roy Keane stare. But, and he was sitting, and I remember I was playing the rest of the paddle game, and he was sitting there with his friends, and they were just, you know, smoking weed or whatever. And I remember thinking, like, do you know what? You know, I have no idea about this kid's situation. I don't know what house he left in, you know, from Tallaght or somewhere around there. So I don't know where he can, you know, I don't know anything about what's going on in his life. And I think sometimes we kind of forget that, you know, we just see the person, we see the situation, and we react to the situation without actually understanding what's going on in the background. So,
no, it is so.
And you made the point about maybe kids in Russia say wanted to be asked to play. And then I actually was thinking there, it's like, geez, like, I wonder what would actually happen if I one day was in there playing paddle tennis and shouted to the kids and said, hey, do you want to play? Like, I wonder what I don't know what they'd say. I might, I'll see, I'll tell you the next time.
The thing is, they mightn't step out from among their peer group to do it. You know, it's different. They're so competitive in Russia that they definitely would. But and also they're used to a disciplined lifestyle, the children we work with. But here, they have to be part of their group maybe, and they're afraid to step out, which is, in a way, we have to build them all so that they feel that they can step up and step out and say, look, I'll do that. You know, and really it's about self-confidence. And the chances are, and I'm not defending it because you do want to kill these kids when they do stuff like that, but the chances are his dad never, you know, stood on the side of a GA pitch with him, or never took him to a tennis match, or I'm assuming that, but I'm just saying kids that are that apathetic, that feel that maybe they just never had the investment that, you know, other kids do get from home life, you know, and you would think that that's why they're like that. You know, there's a reason why they're like that. There's a reason why these kids are pushing women into the canal and calling them racist, and when they're being called racist. And like, there's a reason behind all that, you know. It's awful. But we have to work on it, all of us, and it has to change in the home as well, you know.
Well, I remember you kind of at that event on the south side of dinner, and you were talking about the school basically, and the kind of literacy rates and certain areas of Dublin and stuff, and I was just kind of blown away, like, that I didn't actually, I suppose I live in a bubble, you know, I live in a bubble of where I am, like, and I just don't see it. And
we all do. We all live in bubbles, really, and it's easier not to look. In an awful lot of cases, it's easier not to know this is going on because you're afraid to get dragged in. So we will drag you in a little bit, but we'll do it slowly. We'll do it slowly. So listen, I just want to mention your company is called, obviously, the HC Collective. You're a coaching company, which is and I think you're fab, and I wish you all the best with it, James.
Very nice.
You know, I think the discipline and the hard work and all that will pay off. And it's a lovely book. It's a lovely read. And I'll see you soon on our own.
Thanks again for having me, and anything I can do to help them.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I'll be in touch soon. Thanks a million, James.
Thank you.
Okie doke. See you.
Yeah.